Hey, Lioness. Welcome to the show, Lioness Conversations, where we help women be brave, to lead with confidence and joy, and to find your path to the most meaningful work of your life. I'm your host, Jen Porter, leadership and empowerment coach for ambitious and heart centered women. You can find out more about the Lioness community at jenportercoach.com. Today, we have the privilege of having you meet my new friend, Deena Kamm. Dina is a veteran performer, a voice coach on a mission to help people reclaim and embrace the full power of their voice. With over 30 years in the music industry, she's helped thousands break through fear and self doubt to speak and sing with confidence and authenticity. Through her Voice Up program, her original work, Voiceless, a musical, and her upcoming book, Dina empowers people to express themselves with clarity, passion, and purpose. Her belief: if you can talk, you can and should sing loud. Dina, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm so
Hi.
happy to have you here and have this conversation with you.
Thank you for having me. I love having this conversation.
Well, you and I met through a dear friend, Erin,
hmm
and when you and I connected, we realized we had so much in common.
Yeah.
We both do a lot of work around the voice and helping,
hmm
particularly for me, I help women find their voice. You help women and men find their voices.
hmm
And we have a mutual love for authenticity and
hmm
the lion, the lioness, the
hmm
lion imagery is
hmm
meaningful to both of us.
Yep.
So it
Yep.
was like kindred spirits when we met.
Yeah. I know. It sort of fell right into place the minute when Aaron, well, I guess you sent it over. I guess Aaron gave you my info and
She nominated you.
she's so great. I love
I
Aaron
know.
so much.
I know. Erin
I
Foot
mean,
Morgan, who we're talking about,
yeah.
a
I mean,
powerhouse in her own
talk
right.
about power. Oh my God.
She's
She's
amazing.
like, keep your eye on her because she'll change the world for
She
sure.
will. She is.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
is. She is. She's
One
amazing.
amazing, meaningful project at a
Yeah,
time.
yeah. One of my favorite people. I
Yeah.
love being with her. We're both way too busy. We never see each other, but when we do, it's just like, I love
Love,
you.
love, love.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's start with where you're focusing your effort right now. You're doing this huge musical. You're writing and
Yeah,
producing this musical called Voiceless.
yeah.
What is that about?
Well, I have a writing partner, and it's loosely based on her actual story. It's about a woman who loses her voice um, physically from a neurological response to stress and trauma. And it's a condition called muscle tension dysphonia, and it's MTD for short. And it's a real thing. I actually work with people who have all different versions of dysphonia, and this is one of them. And this story is about a woman who's dealing with a lot and isn't dealing with it. And so she loses her speaking voice. And I'm not allowed to give it away, but her journey back to it, basically. It's
Wow.
but it kind of ruins the show if I tell you the
Sure.
really cool hook in it. There's a really cool hook in it.
What made you take this on, this big project?
Well, I have been wanting, so I'm a singer-songwriter. That was my very first thing that I did in music. I was a singer and then I turned into a songwriter. And so I had been wanting to write a musical really for like the last 20 years. And I kind of loosely started and stopped several times. And nothing really like hit me that I wanted to make it my whole life. Like a musical is so much work. Oh my God. Never write a musical. It's so hard. It's
I
so
cannot
much work.
imagine, Dina. I
It's
cannot
it
imagine.
it's endless amounts of work. I mean, I thought it was just going to be, oh, I'll write, 25 songs and be done with it. It has been all consuming for 5 years. But um, so I've always wanted to write a musical. And then I'm sitting in the bathtub one day and I'm scrolling through my phone and I always get like downloads in the bathtub. I think it's because
Okay.
the only place I can't do anything. I just stop. And so for that reason, I never take baths, but I just can't. I'm a shark. And and Google dropped an article that my writing partner, Ann Fenn, wrote in my feed. And it was something, I think it was, well, this is going to give away the show, but it was The Year I Couldn't Talk. I think that was what it was called.
Okay.
And I read the article and it was really funny. And turns out she was a comedy writer in Toronto, Canada. And she is hilarious and a seasoned writer. That's all she's done as work. She's a writer and a comedian. And the story was so great. And her story was like an amalgamation of all my clients' stories.
Wow.
So it was like, and then the doctor in her story was me. I'm not a doctor, but
Yeah.
it was like all the things he was telling her was like, that's what I do. So
And you had not met her before that point?
no.
Okay.
I mean, I really can thank Google for this. So sometimes that them spying on you is a good thing. Because we all know, like, how did you know, Google?
We do know this.
I know. So I sent her an email. I found her. I stalked her online and I found her and I read through her. I guess there was a website. I think she had a website at that time, and I read through the website and I was like, oh, I love this lady. And I sent her an email and I was like, hey, you don't know me and I'm not weird and I'm not trying to kill you or anything, but do you want to write a musical together? And she wrote back like, yeah, that's really weird that you sent me an email, because I was just telling my best friend yesterday that the only thing I've ever wanted to do that I haven't done in my life is write a musical. And she's
What?
like, yeah, let's do it. So we met in LA
Okay, let's
about,
just pause there.
I know. I mean,
This is incredible when this happens. Isn't
and
life just beautiful and mysterious and a
yes,
wonder?
and every step of the way with her has been the most organic work I've done. I mean, both of us. It's been easy. We don't fight. We just have such a good rapport. Our story came together easy. We don't make any decisions without each other. And it's
Wow.
just like she's been such a great partner. And it's crazy. Like how she's on
Did
the other
she
side of the country. Well, the
does
other
she
side of the
still live in
continent.
Canada? Or did she move to Bend to work on this project?
Oh, no, we did it all online. Did
Okay.
all of it online, yeah.
Wow.
On, internet calls basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've only ever really met like in person, I think 3 times. 3 times.
And she's
Yeah.
coming for the big launch?
We don't know.
You
We're
don't
not
know.
sure. Yeah. Well,
Oh, I
there's a
can't
lot of,
imagine her not being there.
I know, but there's a lot of things going on right now at the
Sure.
Canadian border. So we don't have to talk
Mm.
about all that, but
Yeah.
so that's a whole thing.
Okay. Wow.
Um,
And so you have been in well, let me start with this. What is your vision for this musical? What do you really want this to be?
um, that's a funny question, because when it started out, it was like, I want to write a show for me to do. I want to write my own show about something that I care about.
Yeah.
And so I am, for this incarnation of the world premiere, which is happening in July of 2025, I am the lead. But it's gotten so far beyond me. Like at first it was just, I want to do a show for me. I just want to do something for myself.
Yeah.
And it has turned into, I mean, the reach is so incredible already, and it hasn't even started. And just, we have 2 production companies working with us, and a teams of people from all different areas, because there's a very big autism piece to this show.
Okay.
It's centered around the lead character starts an autism, a company to help her niece with autism, so she has a job, and so she only hires
Mm,
high functioning autistic, not high functioning, but like functioning autistic people that wouldn't otherwise be able to get like a job, that kind of thing.
amazing.
And so there's a really big piece to that. And the great part about that is that and I didn't plan on that. It just fell into place because my writing partner, Anne, her niece has autism, and she's very, very, very close with her niece. So this is part of her story. And her niece helps her all the time with her voice, because she calls her out all the time. Why did you say that? That's not true. That's not honest. there's a common thread through a lot of the autistic community that they don't do the superficial stuff. They don't
Yeah. They're
they
not
don't really
filtering everything they
they're
say.
not filtering. And so we used that in this show as the voice of honesty, where, we make fun of neurotypicals, which is people who are not autistic.
Yeah.
Um, so that has become a very big piece of it. I had to dive hard into the autism community and research because I had to write from the autism perspective, which I had no idea what it even was when I started. And now I'm involved in the communities, and I feel like I really speak. I shouldn't say I speak on their behalf, but I think I speak for them in a very, like, I really worked hard to make sure that it
Mhm.
was not offensive, not demeaning, not degrading. That's number one,
Honoring,
like right
right?
out of the honoring.
Hmm.
We really lift up the beauty of this culture in the show. And so
Amazing.
that was hard for me, and not hard for me, it was time consuming.
And
Um,
then what about Voice Up? What is that program?
Voice Up is my corporate coaching company. So I have a local company called Sing Bend. I'm from Bend, Oregon. I live in Bend, Oregon. And Voice Up is the corporate version of that. It's sort of my umbrella parent company. It kind of umbrellas everything. It's got my musical under there, and me as an individual, as a speaker. I teach. So I work with people who are public speakers, attorneys,
Mhm.
anybody who has to use their voice for a living. I've worked with social media influencers, where they're online all the time, specifically women, for those in that area, because women tend to have much more tension in their voice than men. Um, and they it's harder for them to lose than men. So Voice Up kind of covers all of that, but it's more of my corporate angle. So I'll
Yeah.
do,
And
um,
what does tension in the voice mean?
um, that's a long answer, but the short answer is you're not using your diaphragm to support the instrument. The diaphragm is the motor of the instrument. And if you don't use the diaphragm, the only other option to motorize the instrument are the throat muscles.
Yeah.
And it's not built for the throat muscles to motorize the instrument. So when we use this instrument with the throat muscles, what we get is like a ball of tension in our throat. And
Wow.
when that happens, our sound comes up here a lot of the time.
Uh-huh. And it
So a
would get
lot of
fatigued, right? More than the
fatigue
diaphragm.
very easily. You lose your voice probably all the time. But also it usually sounds tight,
Okay.
and it sounds uncomfortable. But in our culture, we don't really pay attention that much to sound. What we do pay attention to subconsciously is the tension coming out of your voice
Mm.
physically goes into my body, because tension is carried through sound.
Like
So
energy.
absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So what's super cool about what you do is you talk about the physicality of singing, of using your voice. And
Yeah,
you also compare singing to yelling. And so with your
it is.
clients, you get them to sing by yelling and understanding the connection between those. Tell the
Yeah.
story about when a baby is born.
Well, when we are in utero, we are pulling in amniotic fluid into our lungs and pushing it out of our lungs. That's our diaphragm working. Our diaphragm contracts down, sucks fluid in, and it relaxes and it pushes fluid out. The diaphragm's a whole other thing. I could talk 15 hours about it. Then when we're born, um, the diaphragm pushes that fluid out. It's the very first thing that happens in every single healthy baby. Doesn't matter who you are, where you're born, what you socioeconomic, nothing. The first thing that happens is the diaphragm pushes the fluid out of your lungs, it contracts down and sucks air back into your lungs. So now you're breathing. That's all healthy babies. Almost always, the very next thing that happens with every single healthy baby is they sing. That's the very next thing. That's their very next move. And singing is the only natural physical thing that we do that presses down the diaphragm at any length of time. And the reason that's important is because when the diaphragm is pressing down, it's hitting the vagus nerve, the top of the vagus nerve, and it's triggering the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our regulatory system. It helps us calm down. And it creates happy feel good hormones, serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, and endorphins. And so the very first thing we do when we're born is calm ourselves down by singing.
That's so interesting, because I would think that using our voices in a big way would actually elevate our nervous system.
It absolutely does not.
And
It
it's
absolutely
actually,
does
there's a
not.
calming, there's endorphins and
It
dopamine
is the
hits and all that.
only thing that you can do that will hold. You can hold because the diaphragm is a long hold muscle, but the only time it long holds is when we're singing. Because
Wow.
the only time that you're long holding is when you're contracting on an exhale. That's the physicality of it. It's a little more complicated than that. It takes me about an hour to explain it well.
Yeah.
So I won't get into it, but what's happening is physiologically when you sing, when you hold down your the diaphragm, that is the motor of your singing voice. That's
Hmm.
how you create air pressure in the upper thoracic cavity, which is basically your lung chest area, and that creates air pressure. It pressurizes it, and when it pressurizes it, that plucks the vocal cords. So that's how the
Wow.
voice works. It's the only way the voice works.
And what other health benefits are there to singing?
Oh my God. How much time do we have?
Enough for you to give us an overview.
Okay, overview. Um, well, that particular activity creates that long hold on the parasympathetic. But so that is a happy feel good regulatory. It's responsible for your feelings and emotions. And so if you're feeling upset or excuse me, anxiety or stress, they say to breathe. But what they really mean is hold, trigger on that parasympathetic. Because one of the things that when you have a really racing heart rate and you're really upset, and people say, "Oh, take 3 deep breaths." Well, I'm not really sure what people think that means, but what's happening is the diaphragm is a big muscle right underneath the lungs and right underneath the heart. And there's fascia, which is a web-like substance that goes on top of all muscles. It connects all of our muscles and all of our throughout the body. And there's fascia on top of the diaphragm, and then it goes up underneath the lungs and it wraps around the heart.
Oh.
So every single time you contract down, which is an inhale, your heart slows, it expands, it grows. So it is responsible, the diaphragm is responsible for calming the heart rate down.
Is that why we feel a release after like a good cry, or we yell and vent, or
Those are two different things, but yes. But
okay.
yes, because the yell and cry is the parasympathetic, and
Yeah.
you open the floodgates of the parasympathetic when you yell or cry. Crying usually comes with some version of vocal, audible cry. But I don't know exactly. I've never actually been asked about crying, so that's really interesting,
Hmm.
and I'm going to look into it. But
Well, I'm recalling from our first conversation that don't people tend to cry when they
yes,
use their voices newly?
yes, and that is the release of the parasympathetic. Yeah.
Wow.
Because if you are never holding down on that parasympathetic, then you don't have that exponential release of hormones. Because the only way to get that exponential release of the 4 happy feel good hormones is to hold it down. And the only way to hold it down naturally is to be vocalizing. You
Yeah.
can do it on your own without, I mean, you can consciously do it. You can hold your breath.
Yeah.
I do exercises with my clients where I show them how to do it without vocalizing, but singing's the best. Here's the other thing it
Hmm.
does. So when your diaphragm is contracting down, you are massaging your internal organs for your lower
Wow.
thoracic. You're also triggering, it's responsible for nasal health, because when you're using really deep breaths, usually you're breathing through your nose. This is mostly diaphragm and not singing.
Mhm.
But they're so connected that I always talk about the diaphragm and the health benefits of it, because the only way you can really get those health benefits is by singing. So I like to talk about diaphragm first, and then I say, see, that's why you should sing. Um,
Incredible.
so yeah,
So,
it's nasal health, lung health, internal organ health.
well, and
Um,
mood, right? Mood, which is huge.
yeah, yeah, but I mean, yes, but they're all connected, right? Because your mood, if you don't feel good, then your mood, you're always in this low grade, you know, uh, malaise. There's always some version of not right in your body. And the diaphragm is really connected to all of that. And the best way to exercise the diaphragm and keep it strong so that all these body parts work is sing.
And
It's
so when people come to you, they are often really intimidated to sing.
they're almost always terrified. They're almost just always, it's very unusual that I'm from LA, but I live in Bend, Oregon. If I was a singing coach or a voice coach in LA, I think I would have a lot of actors and singers and they'd be not intimidated.
Yeah.
But in this town, the majority of my clients, in-person clients, are honestly older people, which I'm so happy about, because they come in and they're just like, I just know something's wrong. I just know it's been my whole life and this has been stuck my whole life and I'm tired of it. And they just get to the point where they just don't care anymore. And then they come in, but then the idea of actually doing it is
Yeah.
a whole other ball game. But I have to create an extraordinarily safe, very friendly to fail environment. I don't believe in failure,
Right.
but
Right.
people who are singing are like, I'm going to sound bad. That's all they think of. I'm going to sound bad. First of all, who cares? Let's be honest. Who cares?
True.
You know, like, so what? Like, nothing's going to go wrong if you sound bad. But mostly they don't sound bad. Almost nobody ever sounds bad.
And then how do you start with yelling to help people find their voice to sing?
Well, physiologically, the function of voice only works one way. And singing, speaking, and yelling are all the exact same physiological function.
Mm.
So if you are talking, you are singing. If you are yelling, you are singing. I don't know if I'm going to overdo if I'm going to do it, but I don't know if I'm going to blast. It's probably going to not pick it
Go
up.
ahead.
Let's try. So if I'm going, hey, okay, I'm yelling at somebody. Hey, can you hear that? Did it
Yeah.
cut it out?
Yeah. Yeah. It's totally
Okay,
fine.
that's exactly the same thing as hey, hey. There's no difference.
I love it.
It's the exact same function, feeling, everything about it's the same. One is musical, one is not. That's the only difference.
And one, you're controlling your voice a little bit more and you're sort of moving up and down. That takes
No,
some talent.
no,
But you're
it
starting
doesn't
with
take
the
talent.
yelling, and it's like people would probably agree that anybody can yell. It's maybe we don't do it often, but we know we have the ability to yell.
Yeah, yeah. But the problem is we associate the volume of our voice with negativity. If we are loud, this is what my book's about.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I call my company Voice Up. If you are using your instrument properly, your diaphragm is strong, healthy, and everything about your body is better. Period.
Okay.
If you are using it in a way that's keeping it quiet, we're built to project. So if you don't project, then what you're doing is you're turning down the volume knob, and the volume knob is the contraction of the diaphragm. And if
I
we
want
don't
to I
have,
want to pause on one thing you said there.
yeah,
We are born to project.
we are born to project. That's how the instrument works.
So, do you remember our first conversation where I said, Dina, why is it that when people, coaches around me, people have said, roar, use your voice and roar like a
Uh,
lion, like a lioness.
isn't that
I said,
funny?
why does that feel so vulnerable to me? I really didn't know. And this is what you told me. This is the connection, is
Yeah,
that we are nurtured to be quiet.
yep. Loud is bad. And
And say more about why that is
well,
culturally.
I don't know why it is culturally, because it's old. This is old stuff. This is not just America. There are cultures that are loud. Italian, there's a lot of African cultures that really celebrate the voice. Native American, indigenous cultures are
Yeah.
usually pretty loud. But we are in a culture, specifically in the United States, where, I mean, the United States is huge, but most cultures within it are, we're born. So I start my talk off by saying the crying thing, the baby. Okay. The very first thing we do as a baby, we come out and we yell, we cry, whatever you want to call it, we sing. And it is immediately stifled. Stop the baby. Something's
Right.
wrong. It's a negative thing. And we're doing our job as parents. We're doing as our job to protect our children. But then what happens is we go throughout childhood, and the volume of our voice is continually talked about as negative. Nobody ever has to teach a kid how to be loud, because they're loud beings. Well, what is that? Think about that. If a baby is loud, if a baby's vocal cord is the size of the tip of my pinky, okay? And
Yes.
they're the loudest people in the room,
Yes.
what's wrong with that picture? They came out perfect, and they came out doing what they did to help regulate themselves. They knew it intrinsically. We've been singing since 3200 BC. They have proof, archaeological proof somehow. I can't remember. I've got the article somewhere. And that humans were singing long before established language. So why are we so anti the volume? So we go throughout childhood, and everybody's saying, be quiet, you're hurting my head, go outside, use your inside voice, you're interrupting, don't interrupt, raise your hand, quiet in the halls, cover your mouth. It's nonstop.
Wow.
Nonstop. You have to be quiet, go to your room if you're going to be loud, go outside.
So the
So
message is always, you will get in trouble.
you will get in
There will be
trouble.
consequences if you are.
Always. You'll get bad grades, you'll get hit. And then what happens is, as you grow up and you turn into a teenager. I work with so many teenagers. And you turn into a teenager, and you've already been taught loud is bad. And now, by that point, at age 14, 15, 16, you've shut that volume knob off. Well, the volume knob is the diaphragm. The diaphragm is, I believe, the most important muscle in the body. It's the only thing that can help control and regulate the heart. It's the only way we can get to the heart. It's breathing. The diaphragm is the breathing muscle. And it's controlling all these other functions too. And again, honestly, 15 hours minimum, I could talk about diaphragm. It's
Yeah.
the most, like, everybody should be researching the diaphragm.
And
That's
this will
part of,
be in your book, yes?
this is all in my book. And this is why I had talked to you earlier about, like, I'm hoping to start centers where we start talking about diaphragm and how it connects to the voice, and how the voice is so imperative for healthy
Yeah.
living.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we grow up learning to be quiet. And if we're in a room and we're the loudest person in the room, we're self-conscious. If we have to sing, we're self-conscious. The number 1, 2, 3, 4, it's always in the top 4, fear. People would rather die than public speak,
Yeah,
do
it's
public
true.
speaking. So why? That's
Why?
your voice. Why? Well, we get taught very, very early that it's not good to be heard.
It's not safe.
It's not safe. Yeah.
That's the
We
message.
will get in trouble. We are not pleasing our adults. We have to please our adults because we're tied to them.
How did you find your voice? Were you a kid that was quiet, or were you always a loud kid?
Never. I've never been quiet a day in my life. Anybody who's ever met me will be like, yep,
Even
I've
as a
always
little
been
girl, you
loud.
were
Oh
loud.
my God, I was so loud. And I was actually told, my mom hates when I say this, but I was told by my mom not to sing. She told me when I was young that I had a bad singing voice. But my mom is amazing. My mom did nothing wrong. She just fell in line with what everyone else did.
Yeah.
But I call myself an extreme extrovert. Nobody could ever pin me down. I mean, I came out of the womb like, bah, 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 like, ha, bah, bah, let's do it. I mean, I was 4 weeks, I was 6 weeks early and they sent me home in like an hour. And I rolled over like in the first like 30 minutes I was alive.
Oh,
I
you were
rolled
ready to
myself.
live life.
I was like, let's go, move it on. I want to get out of here. I've, and I've always been that person. I mean, that is just who I am. I guess I used to apologize for it a little bit
Okay.
because it was, well, my mouth is always running. So I
Mhm.
find, when your mouth is running all the time, you're going to apologize more often than most people because I just say what's on my mind. And then I kind of like mop up after I go, oh God, sorry, didn't mean to do that. It wasn't my
Mhm.
intention. Not so much anymore. I'm older now, I'm wiser, but when I was younger, I was regularly offending people. But I was just loud. I was big. I got kicked out of every classroom I ever sat in. Was always in trouble.
Because you were talking and you were loud.
And no one could stop it. And because of that, to I was able to do what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the gift that I have is that I don't have fear like other people of being heard and being seen.
How did you learn that courage?
I
I mean, I know
I
you were loud and you had a lot to say, but when do you remember having to be brave as a child?
Well, yeah, my dad was not a great guy. He was abusive, and I remember as a very young kid, my first memory was me him basically doing something horrible that would be considered abuse, definitely today, but it was even considered abusive back then, way back in dinosaur age. And I just remember being, 3 or 4 and looking at him and saying to myself, I will never let you do this to me. I will never let you take the fire out of me and stomp me out, and I will never let you do it to my family. Well, he did it to all of us, but I think I've always been kind of the person in my family that's the one who I call out the elephant in the room before the elephant even shows up into the room.
Wow.
It's just always been, I don't know, something in me was just like, you're not doing it to me. And he did. He did it to me my whole childhood, but it never broke me. He never broke me. And not to say I wasn't broken. I had a lot of therapy and I was very angry at men for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I was very aggressive. My first my personal music project when in my 20s was all just like female empowerment and rage, and I shaved my head and I was screaming, and I used to
Mhm.
scream through a bullhorn on the microphone because the microphone wasn't loud enough. I have the bullhorn right here. um so
So
yeah, I've just always been this way.
so I know you did ballet as a young person
Yeah.
before you were a singer.
Yeah.
So when did you first start singing? Was that also as a child?
No, no, definitely not. I didn't really sing. I didn't think I had a good voice. I didn't think of myself as a singer at all. And then a friend of mine heard me singing karaoke, or heard that I was singing karaoke. And then he called me and asked me if I would do background vocals for his album. And he had just gotten signed to a record deal, to a record label. And so he was making an album and he needed a background singer. And he called me and I was like, you're a fool because I'm not a singer, but let's go. Let's do it.
You were still willing to do it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I am an extrovert. I am a performer. I am a
Yeah.
big personality. I am
And
usually the biggest personality in the room.
you had been performing as a dancer
Yeah,
to that
yeah,
point. So you were very comfortable on stage.
very. I feel like that's my home. Like
Yeah.
there's nowhere I'm more comfortable than on a stage, which I now know as an adult to be 100% true, and that is unusual. I know that that's not a normal thing. That's
Yeah.
definitely like that's sort little bit of my superpower.
And so you were in LA at the time,
Yeah.
right? And then you are now a backup singer.
Yeah, then I became a backup singer. And so that one job, I did one song, and excuse me, that one job turned into I did the whole album. And then I started touring with him and doing his shows with him. And then, long story short, I ended up in my own band after that. But I never ever thought of myself as a singer. I never thought I was a good singer. I never thought I was supposed to sing. I only thought of myself as someone who kind of fell into this thing. And I was making money at it. At the same time I was doing that, I was a voiceover artist, doing
Wow.
parody songs of all the songs on the radio. And I was working basically almost every day doing a song for a company in LA that was syndicate radio all over the country. And
And then how did you start your own band?
I just, with the first guy that I was singing with, we started a band. He got dropped and we started a band. So I started songwriting in this kind of safe space of, he was already the guy doing it and I just started doing it. And
Mhm.
once I realized songwriting was another version of my voice, I mean, absolutely a version of my voice. And I really liked being in control of the, the narrative.
Yeah.
So
You had
instead
a
of,
message to share.
yeah, I had a lot. Well, I was angry. I was mad at my dad. I was mad at men. I was mad at the patriarchy, which we didn't call it that back then. Um, but that's what I was mad at. And I started yelling on behalf of all women. And so my first album was called Story of a Girl. And that whole album is just about me basically yelling on behalf of women. I was just
So did
yelling.
you, I mean, this may sound like a funny question, but did you see yourself more as a yeller than a singer?
Yes, I
You
did. That's
did.
actually a really good question. I never, ever have thought about that. But good call, Jen. That is like, I felt like my job was to scream on behalf of the world.
Mhm.
And because it was in the form of on an alternative rock music project, it was legal. No one got mad at me for doing it, you
Wow.
know? Yeah. I
You
never
had a
thought about that.
platform.
I never thought about that. It's really interesting. Very, very good connection there. So
And
yeah,
and your band was
Unruly Helga.
Unruly Helga. That was
Yeah.
your stage name.
Yeah, yeah, basically. Yeah, I was Helga. Yeah. And it was a really good project for a really long time. We had a lot of success and it was fun. And I was a rock star for a little while.
And you
Little,
represented yourself, right? You weren't with a label.
yep. Yeah, I was totally independent. Yeah, I was too loud to be with a label. Every time I would sit in a meeting with someone who wanted to sign me, I was so obnoxiously like, no, who are you? Who are you? How dare you? I refuse. I'm not signing that pathetic contract, and I meant it, but
Yeah.
it was, you know, it was part of my work
Mm.
to not lay down for them, you know,
Yes.
it really was. So it was hard. It was hard to say no to money. I was always broke. I was always broke, but, I don't regret one moment of it. I feel like I have my self respect intact. I
Yeah.
feel like I practice what I preach. I always have. And I feel like I own all of my history and who I am, and nobody can do anything with it but me. I'm the only one who owns it. So it's hard, but it's like when you work hard, you usually have benefits, but sometimes
Yeah.
you don't see them. I see them now in my old age. I'm 53 and I feel very wise, you know.
Yeah. Well, when you look back on that period of your life, and wow, you've been a lioness your whole life, like since you were 3 or 4, it sounds like maybe before that, maybe when you were born in the
And
womb.
I'm a Leo.
Um, when you look back on that period of time where you were really challenging things, pushing against the status quo, you were, exerting your power and trying to stay in your authenticity when you could have sold out, right? So as you move through those years of being on stage, not being with a label, doing your own thing, booking your own events, what do
Ugh.
you now look back on that and see that it did for you?
Well, now I know that it set me up to accomplish whatever I decide I want to do. I mean, this musical is I thought the musical was going to be easier than my music career, and I was wrong. I thought,
Wow.
I thought my music career was hard work. It is a tenth of the work that I'm doing now, but I am, I feel just, I feel capable, I think, because I can,
Mhm.
I can do hard things and survive and feel good about it. And do I do it all perfect? No. I make mistakes every second of the day. I'm constantly making mistakes. I have right now in my room, if I turn the thing around, I'll show you. Um, I'll just show you. I don't know if you can see that. It's my board up there.
Okay. What does it
It
say?
it says a person, let me come back over here. It says a person who never made a mistake, never tried anything new.
That's absolutely true.
And that's
Yes.
Albert Einstein, so he was smart. I didn't say that. He did.
Will you show us your lion?
Yeah. Oh, so there's the lion. Let me put it up. Let's see. There's the
Oh,
lion.
amazing. Amazing. I'm going to show you mine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there he goes.
It's so similar. Yours has the
Oh,
colored eyes, though. This is cool.
I get to see him every day.
I know. I look at that thing every day, and I use that with my clients. I'm constantly telling my clients, like, I want you to roar. Let's hear
Yeah.
it. Like, who are you? You're a lion. Everybody's a lion. Everybody's got this incredible instrument.
Yeah.
And the only reason they're afraid to use it is because they've been taught that it's not polite to be loud. So who said that? It's so healthy. It's not the healthiest,
Mm,
but it's one of the most healthy things you can do. So I'm
yes. Well, I think about the consequences of not doing it. Not only health wise, but relationally, self
absolutely,
image. I mean,
yeah.
if we're, you know, so much of the work I do is helping women be brave, big, take up space,
Take up
audacious,
space,
bold,
audacious.
dream
Yes,
big, say it out
yes,
loud.
yes, girl. That is what I'm talking about. And you're helping women, and I love that. But men have it too. It's really,
Yeah.
it's really interesting. It was something that became, it was something that this thing is really driving me bananas, but I'm just going to deal with it. Sorry, I keep moving it around.
It's
Um,
okay.
Men have, um, they don't have the stifled voice. This is in what I've seen. This is not every man, of course. Um, but they don't have the stifled voice, but they do also have that same, like, I'm just yelling. You're just having me yell. Yeah, we got to find that. You got to find it and feel it and know what you're capable of. It's like you got to swing the pendulum all the way to the other end because we've been
What
so quiet for so long.
so say more about that. What is that struggle for the men for the men?
Well, they just don't,
Are they afraid to be
they,
loud?
oh, yeah.
Or
Oh my
is it
God.
a fear of being too aggressive, too
Um,
powerful?
I don't see that, but I think that it's just it's that same like insecurity about self-expression.
Okay.
And I think it
Yeah.
all kind of boils back down to when we were infants and we were our self-expression was it was stifled. And so you get taught over and over again that your self-expression is really not welcome, you
Mm,
know, as a kid. And then we grow up and we have to hire Jen Porter to help us figure out why we don't have self expression. I mean,
yeah.
it's not that mysterious. No one's really allowed to fully express themselves in a big way unless you're on stage. And on stage, you
So
can do anything you want.
you seem like, I would say that you're rare in the sense that you have always had your voice.
Yeah.
You've always
I,
been comfortable being loud. And so
thank you.
sometimes when we're listening to people who that's their story, it's harder to relate
Hmm.
because part of my work I told you is like it has been finding my voice, and this is part of
Hmm.
it. Like this moment right here is part of
Mm.
it. But there are ways that you have to be brave, right? There are things that you that feel make you feel afraid or fearful?
Yeah.
What are those things?
Um, I recently did a movie called Confidence with a friend of mine named Bola Badibo. She did a movie about confidence called Confidence, and I was in it and as myself. It's just like a documentary style.
Hmm.
And I struggle with this answer because everyone in the movie, we do panels for her when we do the movie, when she shows the movie. And everyone in the movie talks about this question that you just asked. And my answer is always, I don't really have fear. My only fear is are things surrounding my kid. I
Mm.
am like terrified of my kid getting killed in a school, or
Mhm.
doing a drug and getting hooked on fentanyl or something like that. Those are my fears. I am fearful of my child's safety.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know what's wrong with me.
It's all right. No, it's all right with you.
I don't know if it's all right. I just don't have, I think what's important to know, I don't call it like a lack of fear. What I call it is I trust that everything's going to be okay. I don't look at a problem as a problem. I look at a problem as, do I need to handle this? Do I need to do something different? Do I need to learn from this? Do I need to apologize to somebody? Do I need to, and if the answer is yes, I do all those things and then I move forward with my life. I don't get stuck on anything, and I don't know why I'm different. To
That's
me,
incredible.
it's so easy. It's so much easier, you know?
Yeah.
I,
Yeah. It's fascinating. And my thought is, well, maybe it's because you put yourself out there so young, right?
maybe because
You've tried you've done
yeah,
so many things.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, when you're dancing on stage with these beautiful dancers and you look back at the video and you're like, I don't look like that. It's like, but I survived, it didn't stop me from doing anything. It just made me go, okay, that's not me. What am I good at? This is what I tell my clients. You probably do too. It's that, especially my clients that are going into an audition and they want to work on something and they're working on their voice, they're working on their song. And I will say, that's so great. You sound so good. I don't care. Who cares? Who are you? Show me who you are, because that's what's interesting on a stage. That's what people really want to see. They want to see your authentic self, and in the form of whatever lines you're doing or whatever show you're in. But it's like, I don't care if you can sing well. Boring. Who cares? What I want to see is, who are you? Are you having fun? Are you enjoying yourself? Do you mean something? Do you have angst? Are you trying to communicate something? Show me something real, not
Wow.
technical. Technical is so boring. Who cares? Doesn't
I
matter.
didn't know that. I didn't know that because I thought it was about the technical expertise.
I mean, that's part of it. I'm not going to downplay. Like, you probably do have to be good to get in a show. You have to
But
technically know.
what you're saying, what sets people apart is when we
Yes.
can see who they are.
Yes. Think about it. Think about think about people like, I don't know why this guy popped into my head, but like Howard Stern.
Yeah.
He's
You know who he
interesting.
is.
You know who he is. He's authentic.
You
He
know,
puts himself out there.
I can connect the work that I do around leadership with this because there is no formula for being a leader. There are some best practices. Yes, there's some
Mm-hmm.
things that you want to do to be an effective leader, but
Sure.
that's not what the essence of leadership is. Being authentic is showing up as your true self,
Yeah.
is bringing your
Yeah.
unique style and gifts and
Yeah.
talents and ways of seeing the world into the work that you're
Yeah.
doing.
And I always tell my clients when we're talking about being on a stage, and this will directly connect to what you just said from a leadership standpoint. When you're on a stage, you're in the leadership position. You are running the room.
Hmm.
Whether you're doing it as an actor, a singer, or a public speaker, however, you're running the room. They're sitting there. You have their focus. So if you're running a room, your job is to carry it.
Hmm.
You have to carry everybody in that room. And if you don't believe that you can carry it and
Yeah.
that you can carry yourself, then you're not going to do a good job carrying the room. So you
Right.
have to be able to like really believe in yourself. Like I can stand on a stage and know who I am. And if you don't like me, you can go. But the more often than not, I will connect with you because I'm just myself and I know who I am and I'm putting it out there. And
Yeah.
people love that. I mean, we're
Hmm.
humans. We're humans.
Yeah.
You know, we
It's
want to
it's
see
like
human.
the energy of the authenticity is what is connecting. It's not that you're like me. We don't have to be
Exactly.
the same in
Exactly.
order for me to like you or
Right.
connect with you. It's that we intuitively understand when someone is being real.
Yeah, and like I show myself as a human. I get up on stage, I make mistakes. I go, "Oh, that was stupid. I sounded really bad," or whatever. You know, like I don't do that, but I would never do that in a show. But I have a public rock choir. My public rock choir is built just for this exact thing. And
Okay.
when I run the room, we're just singing songs. It's an event that I do so that people have a place to get loud. With not only do they are they allowed to get loud, but I don't let them not be loud. I'm constantly go louder. I'm like, let's go. Um, so in those moments, you know, I pick the music and sometimes the songs are terrible and we have a terrible, and it's awful. And I'll just go, well, that was horrible. That was my fault. Move on. Let's go. Let's keep moving, you know?
Oh,
And
so
it's
good.
instead of just, nobody's perfect and nobody's getting it right all the time, but
No,
I
nobody.
don't know. We
Not
don't have to. Like, what's getting it right? What is that? What does that mean?
it's not necessarily living.
Yeah.
So what is next for you?
Well, I'm working on this musical,
And
and
it comes
then
out July?
July 24th, it's a 2 week run, which is pretty long for this town. Um, and then it goes and ends on close on my birthday. Um,
Amazing.
yeah, which is very cool, which is going to be a nice little bonus. That was an accident, but it was like just cool.
Love it.
And then my writing partner and I are trying to bounce it into bigger markets right away.
Mhm.
So that's one thing that I'll be focused on. I won't
Which
be.
which markets are you so I'm thinking people are listening to this, they may be able to help you make
Oh
connections
yeah.
with other, cities across the country. What would be most helpful?
I mean, Broadway is where it's going ultimately, but you know, she's in Toronto. Toronto would be very helpful because Toronto's kind of the Broadway of Canada. And but just any bigger city where there's a theater culture.
Arts is big.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know, really anywhere is fine. I mean, the show is already taken on a life of its own, so it's living outside of me now, and so that's it's a very and that was to wrap it back to what you originally asked me. It was like when I wrote this show, I was just writing a show for myself to get up on stage because I'm a little bit of a stage whore. I like to be on stage. So, um, but now it's so beyond me. It's really grown into. So I have to facilitate that and manage it as the owner of the show now.
Yeah.
So that goes into licensing and working with production companies and things like that. So that's one thing that I'll be working on. I have my book, which I was really hoping would come out in tandem with my show, but it is just not going to happen at this point. And that's another like my brain could say, oh, I failed. I didn't get my book out on time. But instead it's like, well, it'll get out next year. Maybe it'll be good. I'll be able to focus 100% on my book, which I'm really excited about because my book is funny. It's basically about your voice and my voice and how they work in the world. And that could be really boring. So I tried to keep it really fun. Um,
Okay.
and I'm excited about my book, but it's also super powerful stuff that I'm really excited to share with the world. And then I definitely want to do some laundry and like do some yard work. It has been like, God,
This has been all consuming for you, hasn't
all
it?
consuming. Yeah. Like my yard is so out of control.
What's your vision for the voice centers? What would that look
Oh,
like?
yeah, the voice centers is where I'm really hoping to go. So my goal is to have this whole big, like just conglomerate of voice activity. And then what I would like to open up centers where we're talking about um, connecting trauma with the voice and healing with the voice. And so maybe my voice centers have a trauma center in it where you can go to therapy and then you bounce right over into your voice lesson and you work it out vocally.
Oh my goodness.
I know. Well, that's one of the problems I have is that I have a lot of people who come in here as therapy, and I'm not a therapist, although I have a chapter in my book called The Accidental Therapist because I really am a therapist in some
Yeah.
ways. You probably get that. You probably
Yeah.
feel that.
People feel that. It's very therapeutic. Hmm.
Yeah. So then that, and also breathing. We're mostly breathing wrong in our culture. Belly breathing is not a thing. There's no such thing as belly breathing. It's a very old um, type name that we use, like in yoga and meditation. We call it belly breathing, but it's you don't breathe with your stomach. You breathe with your diaphragm. So
Hmm.
I would love to incorporate breathing. It's so important that we get back to breathing the way we're built to breathe. I do believe this is all part of my ultimate like intention, especially with my voice centers. I
Yeah.
do believe that one of the reasons everybody is stressed is because we breathe up instead of down. Down is the
Yeah.
only direction we actually inhale. And when we lift up to breathe in, we're actually triggering cortisol and stress
Yeah.
hormones. And we're taught by default that I do believe it has to do with the volume. If you can't breathe down, because if you strengthen your diaphragm and you keep breathing down, you're too loud. So if you have to turn down the volume of the diaphragm, then the diaphragm has to sort of stop working as deep. And when
Yeah.
it doesn't go as deep, you learn to breathe up now instead of down.
Mm.
And you'll never see a baby lift their chest when they breathe.
Yeah.
They'll
Yeah.
never go, or I should say, lift their
It's
shoulders.
really a stress response.
It is, but it's also learned behavior in a culture. So
Yeah.
they say belly breathing to get it away from here. And
Yep.
that's better, but it's also super toxic because you're missing the the mark, which is the diaphragm. So
Health
we're
benefits.
yeah. So anyway, so I'm hoping to have voice centers where we connect the voice to culture, to community.
Yeah.
The number one easiest way to connect with people is to sing with them because you
So
literally
I want, before we wrap up, I want you to tell us about this. What happens when people sing together?
well, scientifically, the vibration of the sound that you're singing, if you're all singing the same song, then you're all on the same note. And every note carries a wavelength, and every wavelength has a specific vibration. And that vibration in encompasses wherever you are, and your body syncs to that vibration, and your neighbor's body syncs to that vibration. So vibrationally, everybody syncs up from a chemical physical standpoint. And when you're in sync with the person right next to you, it's not just an expression, let's get in sync. It's literal. You connect. It is easier. Brains connect. Your emotions connect. It's so easy to connect with somebody when you sing with them. Singing is magical. It's absolutely the one thing missing from our culture.
I was checking out your website, and there's a YouTube video where people are singing and they're putting their arms around each other. Right? It's very naturally.
Is that my video?
Yeah, it's you talking, and then I think it's a scene of
Oh, is it about my rock choir? It's about my rock
probably the rock
choir.
choir.
Yeah. That's my rock choir. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, those people are all strangers. They all walk in strangers and they all leave friends every single time. I mean,
Wow.
I am not doing anything except for enhancing what we're naturally born to do really well. So I don't think I'm that talented or magical or anything. There's nothing about me that's special except for that I demand that it's getting done. That's it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so how do you want people to find you? If they're curious about your work, whether it's the rock choir, the musical, the voice centers, what's the best way to get in touch with you? Or
This
for them
is
to
a
find out more?
this is a hard one for me right now. I would say if you're out of town, you can go to. I've got so many different things going on, and none of them encompass everything. But I
Yeah.
would start with getyourvoiceup.com, and then
Getyourvoiceup.com.
yeah, and you can find me there.
Okay.
And then you could also just Google my name, Deena Kamm, and you could just put in Deena Kamm sing, and everything will come up. That's
And it's
because
Deena Cam
yeah,
Kamm.
yeah, because that is going to pull up my musical, Voiceless, a
Yeah.
musical. That's going to pull up my rock choir. That's going to pull up my sing band, singing practice, coaching. And it's going to pull up getyourvoiceup.com, which is my voice up coaching practice. And
Wow.
then there's probably a bunch of other stuff in there too. Maybe some embarrassing stuff. I don't care. I don't get embarrassed.
And what advice would you give to particularly women and girls who are still struggling to find their voice, to embody, their vocal cords and their diaphragm and the voice their voice in the world?
Well, I would start by saying it is healthy. It is not a crime. You are not doing anything wrong. And then I would also tell everybody that you are definitely not alone. You are not the only person who thinks you have a bad voice, that you shouldn't sing, that you should be quiet, that you're not allowed to speak up. You are not alone. It is an epidemic, and the only way we can change it is to do it. You have to be the change. You have to be the one that just tries,
Mm.
because it's really rampant,
Yeah.
and it's we got to do it together.
Yeah. And my belief is that there's a lot at stake if we don't, that we are
Yeah,
all made to have an
yeah,
impact in this world, a
yeah,
unique imprint.
yep,
And if we're not using our voice in the way that we're designed and created to,
yep,
then the world misses out on what it is that we have to offer. And we miss out on
absolutely.
that experience of being
And
able to step into it.
everybody has something unique to give.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what that is, that doesn't mean you don't have it. And if you do know what it is, that doesn't mean you're obligated to give it. But everybody has a right to a voice. It is the most important piece. It is the only piece of who you are as an individual. Your voice is everything that represents you as an individual. So make the physical voice matter, because it's the foundation of the emotional, the communicative, the expressive, the individual voice. The physical
Amazing.
voice is first. So use it. Use
Dina,
it.
I love what you're doing.
Oh, thank
I
you,
love what you're
Jen.
doing. I can't
Thanks
wait
for
to just
having me.
elevate and share what you're doing. I
Thanks
can't
for letting me
wait to
talk.
read the book. I can't wait
Oh,
to have a musical.
thank
And these
you.
voice centers is just, it's a powerful concept that you're talking about.
Thanks. Yeah.
So people, reach out to Deena Kamm. If you have some ideas about how to support her work, how to, spread it beyond Bend to these other parts of North America and maybe beyond, who knows, reach
Yeah,
out.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Yes.
much. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And you're such an inspiration. I just
Thank
love the
you,
work that you're doing.
Jen. That's so
Yeah.
nice of you. Thank you for having me.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
I'm grateful.
And if want to learn more about Dina's work, Deena Kamm, check her out. You can check out more about the Lioness community at jenportercoach.com. There are group experiences, there's one-on-one coaching that I do, and you can be part of the Lioness community. The other thing I want to share is if you know someone who wants to be a lioness on and be on this podcast, you can nominate them. Nominate them at jenportercoach.com. Go to the contact tab and there's a form that you can complete to nominate, and you can absolutely nominate yourself. I would love to
Oh,
consider you
love
for
that.
this podcast. So thanks for being here. And until the next episode, the lioness in me sees the lioness in you.